Two beings, Elephant and Rain, had a dispute. Elephant said, "If you say that you nourish me, in what way is it that you do so?" Rain answered, "If you say that I do not nourish you, when I go away, will you not die?" And Rain then departed. Elephant said, "Vulture, cast lots to make rain for me." Vulture said, "I will not cast lots." The Elephant said to Crow, "Cast lots." And Crow answered, "Give me the things with which I may cast lots." Crow cast lots, and rain fell. It rained at the lagoons, but then they dried up, and only one lagoon remained. Elephant went hunting. There was, however, Tortoise, to whom Elephant said, "Tortoise, remain at the water." Thus Tortoise was left behind when Elephant went hunting. There came Giraffe and said to Tortoise, "Give me water." Tortoise answered, "The water belongs to Elephant." There came Zebra, who said to Tortoise, "Give me water." Tortoise answered, "The water belongs to Elephant." There came Gemsbok and said to Tortoise, "Give me water." Tortoise answered, "The water belongs to Elephant." There came Wildebeest and said, "Give me water." Tortoise said, "The water belongs to Elephant." There came Roebuck and said to Tortoise, "Give me water." Tortoise answered, "The water belongs to Elephant." There came Springbok and said to Tortoise, "Give me water." Tortoise said, "The water belongs to Elephant." There came Jackal and said to Tortoise, "Give me water." Tortoise said, "The water belongs to Elephant." There came Lion and said, "Little Tortoise, give me water." When Little Tortoise was about to say something, Lion got hold of it and beat it. Lion drank of the water, and since then all the animals drink water. When Elephant came back from the hunting, he said, "Little Tortoise, where is the water?" Tortoise answered, "The animals have drunk the water." Elephant asked, "Little Tortoise, shall I chew you or swallow you down?" Little Tortoise said, "Swallow me, if you please." And Elephant swallowed it whole. After Elephant had swallowed Little Tortoise, and it had entered his body, it tore off his liver, heart, and kidneys. Elephant said, "Little Tortoise, you kill me." So Elephant died, but Little Tortoise came out of his dead body and went wherever it liked. Many years ago, there was a Calabar hunter named Efik who lived in the bush. He killed plenty of animals and made much money. Everyone in the country knew him, and one of his best friends was a man called Okun, who lived near him. Efik was very extravagant and spent much money in eating and drinking with everyone until at last he became quite poor, and he had to go out hunting again. But now his good luck seemed to have deserted him, for although he worked hard and hunted day and night, he could not succeed in killing anything. One day, as he was very hungry, he went to his friend Okun and borrowed 200 rods from him. He told him to come to his house on a certain day to get his money, and he told him to bring his gun loaded with him. Now, some time before this, Efik had made friends with a leopard and a bush cat, whom he had met in the forest while on one of his hunting expeditions, and he had also made friends with a goat and a cock at a farm where he had stayed for the night. But though Efik had borrowed the money from Okun, he could not think how he was to repay it on the day he had promised. At last, however, he thought of a plan. The next day, he went to his friend the leopard and asked him to lend him 200 rods, promising to return the amount to him on the same day as he had promised to pay Okun. He also told the leopard that if he were absent when he came for his money, he could kill anything he saw in the house and eat it. The leopard was then to wait until the hunter arrived, when he would pay him the money. To this, the leopard agreed. The hunter then went to his friend the goat and borrowed 200 rods from him in the same way. Efik also went to his friend the bush cat and the cock and borrowed 200 rods from each of them on the same conditions, and told each one of them that if he were absent when they arrived, they could kill and eat anything they found about the place. When the appointed day arrived, the hunter spread some corn on the ground and then went away and left the house deserted. Very early in the morning, soon after he had begun to crow, the cock remembered what the hunter had told him, and he walked over to the hunter's house, but found no one there. On looking around, however, he saw some corn on the ground, and, being hungry, he commenced to eat. About this time, the bush cat also arrived, and not finding the hunter at home, he, too, looked about, and very soon he espied the cock, who was busy picking up the grains of corn. So the bush cat went up very softly behind and pounced on the cock and killed him at once and began to eat it. By this time, the goat had come for his money, but not finding his friend, he walked about until he came upon the bush cat, who was so intent upon his meal off the cock that he did not notice the goat approaching. And the goat, being in rather a bad temper at not getting his money, at once charged at the bush cat and knocked him over, butting him with his horns. This the bush cat did not like at all. So, as he was not big enough to fight the goat, he picked up the remains of the cock and ran off with it to the bush. And so he lost his money, as he did not await the arrival of the hunter. The goat was thus left master of the situation and started bleating. This noise attracted the attention of the leopard, who was on his way to receive payment from the hunter. As he got nearer, the smell of goat became very strong, and being hungry, for he had not eaten anything for some time, he approached the goat very carefully. Not seeing anyone about, he stalked the goat and got nearer and nearer until he was within springing distance. The goat, in the meantime, was quietly grazing, quite unsuspicious of any danger, as he was in the compound of his friend the hunter. Now and then he would say, "Bah," but most of the time he was busy eating the young grass and picking up the leaves which had fallen from a tree of which he was very fond. Suddenly the leopard sprang at the goat and, with one crunch at the neck, brought him down. The goat was dead almost at once, and the leopard started on his meal. It was now about 8 o'clock in the morning, and Ukun, the hunter's friend, having had his early morning meal, went out with his gun to receive payment of the 200 rods he had lent to the hunter. When he got close to the house, he heard a crunching sound. Being a hunter himself, he approached very cautiously, and looking over the fence, he saw the leopard only a few yards off, busily engaged eating the goat. He took careful aim at the leopard and fired, whereupon the leopard rolled over dead. The death of the leopard meant that 4 of the hunter's creditors were now disposed of, as the bush cat had killed the cock, the goat had driven the bush cat away, who thus forfeited his claims, and in his turn the goat had been killed by the leopard, who had just been slain by Ukun. This meant a saving of 800 rods to Efik. But he was not content with this. As soon as he heard the report of the gun, he ran out from where he had been hiding all the time and found the leopard lying dead with Ukun standing over it. Then in very strong language, Efik began to upbraid Ukun and asked him why he had killed his old friend the leopard. He said that nothing would satisfy him and that he would report the whole matter to the king, who would no doubt deal with Ukun as he thought fit. When Efik said this, Okun was frightened and begged him not to say anything more about the matter, as the king would be angry. But the hunter was obdurate and refused to listen to him. At last Okun said, "If you will allow the whole thing to drop and will say no more about it, I will make you a present of the 200 rods you borrowed from me." This was just what Efik wanted. But still, he did not give in at once. Eventually, however, he agreed and told Okun he might go and that he would bury the body of his friend the leopard. Directly Okun had gone, instead of burying the body, Efik dragged it inside the house and skinned it very carefully. The skin he put out to dry in the sun and covered it with wood ash, and the body he ate. When the skin was well cured, the hunter took it to a distant market where he sold it for much money. And now, whenever a bush cat sees a cock, he always kills it and does so by right, as he takes the cock in part payment of the 200 rods, which the hunter never paid him. Moral: never lend money to people, because if they cannot pay, they will try to kill you or get rid of you in some way, either by poison or by setting bad jujus for you. There was once a woman who had no husband, and she lived for many days in trouble. One day she said to herself, "Why do I always feel so troubled? It is because I have neither children nor husband. I shall go to the medicine man and get some children." She went to the medicine man and told him she was unhappy owing to the fact that although she had now grown old, she had neither husband nor children. The medicine man asked her which she wanted, husband or children, and she told him she wanted children. She was instructed to take some cooking pots, 3 or as many as she could carry, and to search for a fruit-bearing sycamore, to fill the pots with the fruit, to put them in her hut, and go for a walk. The woman followed these instructions carefully. She gathered the fruit, filled the pots, placed them in her hut, and went for a walk until the evening. On arriving near the kraal, she heard the sound of voices and asked herself, "Why does one hear the voices of children in the kraal?" She went nearer and found her hut filled with children, all her work finished, the boys herding the cattle, the hut swept clean by the girls, the warriors singing and dancing on the common, and the little children waiting to greet her. She thus became a rich woman and lived happily with her children for many days. One day, however, she scolded the children and reproached them for being children of the tree. They remained silent and did not speak to her. Then, while she went to visit her friends in the other kraals, the children returned to the sycamore tree and became fruit again. On her return to her own kraal, the woman wept bitterly when she found it empty, and paid another visit to the medicine man, whom she accused of having spirited away her children. The medicine man told her that he did not know what she should do now, and when she proposed to go and look at the sycamore tree, he recommended her to try. She took her cooking pot to the tree and climbed up into it. But when she reached the fruit, they all put forth eyes and stared at her. This so startled her that she was unable to descend, and her friends had to come and help her down. She did not go to the tree again to search for her children. They say that once upon a time, a great famine came, and that Father Ananse the spider, and his wife Aso, and his children, Ntukuma, Niwangkomfoya, Thin Shanks, Alfu Dotwe Dotwe, belly like to burst. And Tikono-kono, big head, built a little settlement and lived in it. Every day the spider used to go and bring food, wild yams, and they boiled and ate them. Now one day Father Anansi went to the bush and he saw that a beautiful dish was standing there. He said, "This dish is beautiful." The dish said, "My name is not beautiful." The spider then asked, "What are you called?" It replied, "I am called Fill up some and eat." The spider said, "Fill up some so that I may see." The dish filled up with palm oil soup, and Anansi ate it all. When he had finished, he asked the dish, "What is your taboo?" The dish replied, "I hate a gunwad and a little gourd cup." The spider took the dish home and went and placed it on the ceiling. He went off to the bush and brought food, and Aso, when she had finished cooking, called Anansi. He said, "Oh, yours is the real need. As for me, I am an old man. What should I have to do with food? You and these children are the ones in real need. If you are replete, then my ears will be spared the sounds of your lamentations." When they had finished eating, Anansi the spider passed behind the hut and went and sat on the ceiling where the dish was. He said, "This dish is beautiful." It replied, "My name is not beautiful." He said, "What is your name?" It said, "I am called Fill up some and eat." Anansi said, "Fill up some for me to see." And it filled up a plate full of ground nut soup, and Anansi ate. Every day when he arose, it was thus. Now Ntkuma noticed that his father did not grow thin, in spite of the fact that they and he did not eat together, and so he kept watch on his father to see what the latter had got hold of. When his father went off to the bush, the Kuma climbed up on top of the ceiling and saw the dish. He called his mother and brothers, and they too went on top. And Tukuma said, "This dish is beautiful." It said, "I am not called beautiful." He said, "Then what are you called?" It said, "My name is Fill up some and eat." He said, "Fill up a little that I may see." And the dish filled up to the brim with palm oil soup. And now Ntukuma asked the dish, "What do you taboo?" The dish said, "I hate a gunwad and a small gourd cup." Tukuma said to Afudotwe, "Go and bring some for me." And he brought them. And Ntukuma took the gunwad and touched the dish, and also the little gourd cup touched the dish with it. Then they all descended. Father Spider, meantime, had come back from the bush with the wild yams. Aso finished cooking them. They called Anansi. He replied, "Perhaps you didn't hear what I said. I said that when I come home with food, you may partake, for you are the ones in need." Aso and her children ate. Father Spider washed and then climbed up on the ceiling. He said, "This dish is beautiful." Complete silence. "This dish is beautiful." Complete silence. Father Spider said, "Ah, it must be on account of this cloth not being a beautiful one. I shall go and bring the one with the pattern of the Oyoko clan and put it on." And he descended to go and fetch the Oyoko patterned cloth to wear. He put on his sandals and again climbed up on the ceiling. He said, "This dish is beautiful." Complete silence. "This dish is beautiful." complete silence. He looked round the room and saw that a gunwad and a little gourd cup were there. Anansi said, "It's not one thing, it's not two things, it's Intikuma." Anansi smashed the dish and came down. He took off the Oyoko pattern cloth, laid it away, and went off to the bush. As he was going, he saw that a very beautiful thing called Mpere, the whip, was hanging there. He said, "Oh, wonderful! This thing is more beautiful than the last. This whip is beautiful." The whip said, "I am not called beautiful." The spider said, "Then what are you called?" It said, "I am called Abiri Diabrada," or swish and raise welts. And Anansi said, "Swish a little for me to see." And the whip fell upon him, beedity, 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 swish. Father Spider cried, "Pwah, pwah." A certain bird sitting nearby said to Anansi, "Say, Adwaberi, cool and easy now." And Anansi said, "Adwaberi, cool and easy now." And the whip stopped beating him. And Anansi brought this whip home, and he went and placed it on the ceiling. Aso finished cooking the food and said, "Anansi, come and eat." He replied, "Since you are still here on earth, perhaps you have not a hole in your ears and don't hear what I said. I shall not eat." Anansi climbed up above and went and sat down quietly. Soon he came down again and went and hid himself somewhere. Then Tikuma climbed up aloft. He said, "Oh, that father of mine has brought something home again." Tikuma called, "Mother, niwa kumfuea, afu dotwe dotwe, come here, for the thing father has brought this time excels the last one by far." Then all of them climbed up on the ceiling. Tikuma said, "This thing is beautiful." It replied, "I am not called beautiful." He said, "What is your name?" It said, "I am called Swish and Raise Welts." He said, "Swish a little for me to see." And the whip descended upon them and flogged them severely. Anansi stood aside and shouted, "Ha! Lay it on him, lay it on him, especially on Nkuma, lay it on him." Now, when Anansi had watched and seen that they were properly flogged, he said, "Adwaberi, cool and easy now." Anansi came and took the whip and cut it into small pieces and scattered them about. That is what made the whip come into the tribe. So it comes about that when you tell your child something and he will not listen to you, you whip him. A woman had a child. One day she went to work in the fields. While she was going to her work, the child cried. When it stopped crying, she suckled it. And after she had finished suckling it, she laid it down in the shade. Then she went on hoeing. Once again the child cried, and a bird came, an eagle, and sat upon it. It soothed the child with its wings. Then the child which was crying became silent. When she saw this, the woman was greatly alarmed and said, "Dear me, how terrible! The eagle is eating my child." As she went toward it, the eagle flew away. Then she suckled her child, and after she had done suckling it, she put it upon her back. When she had finished hoeing, she left off work and returned to the village. On her arrival there, she did not tell her husband of the marvel which she had seen, but kept it to herself. The next morning, the woman again went to work in the field with her child. The same thing happened. Once again, she laid the child to sleep in the shade. After a time, the child cried. Then she beheld the eagle alight on the child and quiet it. The woman was amazed and said, "What is that eagle doing? It is sitting upon my child, but it neither bites nor scratches it. No. And then the child is quiet. Truly an astounding thing." Once again the woman went to her child, and when the eagle saw her coming, it flew off and went to sit on a tree. The woman took her child and was greatly alarmed. She returned to the village, and on her arrival told her husband about it, saying, "A great marvel." Her husband asked, "What about?" The woman said, "Today is the second day I have seen the most amazing thing there where I hoe. I put my child to sleep in the shade, and as soon as it cried, an eagle came, and when it alighted, it stooped over the child and soothed it with its wings. Today is the second day that I have seen that bird act thus. Its name is Eagle." Thereupon the husband refused to believe her, saying, "No, you are lying. There never was such a thing." The wife said no more. Late in the afternoon, the woman took her hoe and went to work in the field. On her arrival, she laid the child in the shade. The child cried. Thereupon the woman thought, "Now I will go and call my husband, who disputed my word and said that I lied." So the woman ran. When she arrived where her husband was, she cried, "Come on! It is you who disputed, saying there never was such a thing. Let us go now and see." The man took his bow and 3 arrows. On his arrival at the field, the woman said to him, "Sit down here. I will put the child to sleep in the shade yonder, and then when you see the bird coming, hide yourself." The woman left the child and went some distance away, and the man hid himself there. Then the child cried very loudly. As the man watched, he saw the eagle come and sit upon the child. Then the man was greatly alarmed and charged his bow with 2 arrows that he might pierce the eagle sitting on his child. Then he shot, but at that moment the eagle dodged, and both arrows pierced his child. Now that is the explanation of the origin of murder. The eagle was a kind person. Nevertheless, the father of the child wished to kill it. Then the eagle cursed him and said, "Now is kindness among men at an end, because you killed your child, beginning with you, and going on to all people. You shall kill each other." To this day, people kill each other. There was once a man who had 3 sons, none of whom had a wife. One day the father went out to see if he could find a suitable girl for his eldest son, and he found a beautiful girl at a village nearby. That night when he returned home, he called his eldest son and said, "I have found a beautiful girl for you, and tomorrow I want you to take the cattle to her father." Early next morning the son went out with 5 of the best cattle and presented them to the girl's father. On his arrival, the girl took his sticks, and the young boys took the cattle to the kraal. The girl's father then said, "Have you come to take my daughter?" To this the man replied that he had. The girl's father then called his daughter and said, "Here is your husband. You must go with him to his home today." The girl replied that she was ready, and she and the man departed together for his home. On the road home, the girl began to sing, "I am a beautiful girl, but I have no teeth." Her husband became alarmed and said, "Open your mouth that I may see if what you say is true." To his surprise, he found that what she said was true, and that she had only a black ridge where her teeth should have been. The husband then said, "I was not told of this. I must return you to your father." They returned to the girl's home, and there the husband demanded the return of his cattle, as his wife had no teeth. The cattle were returned, and the disappointed man went home. On his arrival, his father asked, "Where is the girl, my son?" The son replied, "I could not bring her home because she had no teeth." The second son, on hearing this, asked his father, "May I not go myself to see if the girl has no teeth, because I too want a wife?" The father agreed, and the next day the second son set off with the 5 head of cattle. Presenting them to the girl's father, he said, "I have come for your daughter. I have come early so that I need not sleep here tonight, but may return home with your daughter this evening." The man informed his daughter of the wishes of the young suitor, and the girl replied, "Very well, but I must give my husband some food." After the meal, the girl suggested that they depart at once, and they proceeded along the road. When she and the second son reached the same place on the road as before, the girl began to sing, "I am a beautiful girl, but I have no teeth." On hearing this, the young man asked her to open her mouth, that he might see for himself. To his surprise, he found that what she said was true, and he immediately returned her to her father. "Here is your daughter," he said. "She has no teeth, and I want my cattle returned." The girl's father sadly agreed, and the second son returned to his home. On his return, his father said, "Where is the girl?" The son replied, "I thought my brother was lying, but it is true. She has no teeth, and I returned her to her father." The youngest son now rose and asked his father if he might go and see for himself, and the father agreed. The eldest brother asked in disgust, "Do you think that we are mad and stupid because we left the girl?" "No, no," answered the youngest brother, "but I should like to see a girl who has no teeth." The next day, the youngest brother took the cattle and went to the girl's kraal, where he presented the cattle and asked for the girl. The old man, seeing such a young man, said, "You are very young to want a wife, and besides, both your brothers tried, but returned my daughter. However, you may take her if you so wish." Calling his daughter, he told her she must return with this new man to his home. The girl agreed, and, after first giving her new husband some food, they proceeded down the road. At the same place as before, the girl again sang, "I am a beautiful girl, but I have no teeth." "Open your mouth," said the young man anxiously. On seeing the black ridge within her mouth, he showed some surprise, but only said, "Never mind. Let us go on our way." Arriving at a river, the girl began to sing the same song, but the young man said nothing. When in the middle of the stream, he called to the girl to come near to him and, clasping her tightly by the neck with one hand, he told her to open her mouth. With the other hand, he scrubbed the girl's mouth with sand. To his joy, he found that beneath the coating of black shone forth a set of beautiful teeth. And, filled with happiness, he brought his wife to his father's kraal. The other 2 brothers, on seeing the girl, rushed to their father, saying, "Come, father, come and see your mad son. He has brought this girl home, although she is even now singing her song about her teeth." The father came, but said nothing, and the youngest brother called one of his sisters and told her to take his newly acquired wife to his mother's hut. The girls of the village, who had heard about the strange girl, gathered about her and began to make jokes, so that when the newcomer laughed, they might see if the story about her teeth were true. To their surprise, they found that the girl had very good teeth. Meanwhile, the youngest son, told his father that he had brought the girl home as his wife. The father was disappointed. "Yes, my son," he said, "that's all very well, but you have lost all my cattle. What can we do with this girl? I hear she has no teeth and therefore cannot eat." The son did not reply, for at that moment his sister came in and told her father that the newcomer had teeth, for she had seen them. The father said, "Are you sure?" Being convinced that it was so, he went to his son and said, "Very well, my son. We shall see your wife tomorrow." The next day the father entered the hut where the girl was and said, "I want you to open your mouth. I will give you a sheep for this favor." The girl did as she was bid, and the man saw for himself that she had teeth. The woman in whose hut the girl rested then with her lips, and all three went out to the main yard, where the father called the elder sons and said, "What stupid boys you are! Look, this girl has fine teeth, and it has fallen to your youngest brother to find this out and to take her to wife." The two eldest brothers became very ashamed and would not look at the girl. A few days later, large pots of beer were made, and all the friends and neighbors came to pay their respects to the new arrival. All spoke of her beauty and her excellent teeth. But the two brothers never saw for themselves, their shame being too great. The story is finished. Let us tell you another story. Let us be off. Pull away. Let us be off. Pull away. There were two brothers, the smart man and the fool, and it was their habit to go out shooting to keep their parents supplied with food. Thus, one day, they went together into the mangrove swamp, just as the tide was going down, to watch for the fish as they nibbled at the roots of the trees. Fool saw a fish, fired at it, and killed it. Smart man fired also, but at nothing, and then ran up to Fool and said, "Fool, have you killed anything?" "Yes, smart man. I am a fool, but I killed a fish." "Indeed, you are a fool," answered smart man. "For when I fired, I hit the fish that went your way, so that the fish you think you killed is mine. Here, give it to me." The fool gave smart man the fish. Then they went to their town, and smart man, addressing his father, said, "Father, here is a fish that your son shot." But Fool got nothing. The mother prepared and cooked the fish, and the father and smart man ate it, giving none to Fool. Then they went again, and Fool fired, and with his first shot killed a big fish. "Did you hear me fire?" said smart man. "No," answered Fool. "No?" returned smart man. "See then, the fish I killed." "All right," said Fool. "Take the fish." When they reached home, they gave the fish to their mother, and, after she had cooked it, smart man and his father ate, but gave none to Fool. As they were enjoying the fish, a bone stuck in the father's throat. Then smart man called to Fool and bade him go for a doctor. "No," said Fool, "I cannot. I felt that something would happen." And he sang, "Every day you eat my fish, you call me fool, and would let me starve." "How can you sing," said smart man, "when you see that our father is suffering?" But Fool went on singing. "You eat and eat upon repletion, a bone sticks in your throat. And now your life is near completion, the bone is still within your throat. So you, smart brother, killed the fish and gave the fool to eat. Nay, but now he's dead. Perhaps you wish you'd given the fool to eat." Fool was still singing, the father died. Then the neighbors came and joined the family circle and asked Fool how it was that he could go on singing now that his father was dead. And Fool answered them, saying, "Our father made us both, one a smart man, the other a fool. The fool killed the food, and they ate it, giving none to the fool. They must not blame him, therefore, if he sings while they suffer. He suffered hunger while they had plenty." And when the people had considered the matter, they gave judgment in favor of the fool, and departed. The father died, and so had been justly punished for not having given food to the fool. He who eats fish with much oil must suffer from indigestion. And now I have finished my story. Tomorrow may you chop palm kernels.